What's going on, everybody? Your host AMF1534 here. Welcome back to Let's Play some more Gran Turismo, the ultimate driving simulator, and we are smack dab in the middle. Well, maybe not the middle, actually. We just started up. We're in the early stages of a brand new endurance race, so we decided to take on the old Grand Valley 60, and so we're 1/6 of the way done with it right now. But I will tell you something right now. I am smitten with these results. I mean, we are doing so well right now. We're doing amazing out here. And it is vastly exceeding my expectations for what I had going, for what I thought was going to happen going into this thing. I thought we were going to have a legitimate challenge here, because we decided to take a bit of a bold move. Well, okay, maybe it was a bold move initially, but I mean, obviously the results are speaking for themselves right now. I mean, it's not even close at all at this point. We're only a sixth of the way in, and I'm already lapping fools. But we decided to do things a little bit differently. I figured instead of just taking the obvious route and using that insanely overpowered Mitsubishi GTO that I have a really hard time controlling, I figured, you know, maybe we'd peruse the market a little bit and maybe dip into our little surplus fund of like 700,000 credits and maybe go out and buy a vehicle. You know, what's the point in having the money if you don't spend it? And so I perused the market and, you know, was looking to see if I had anything that would be better out there for myself. And while there were a lot of really cool cars in there, I mean, we had, you know, like Supras, and we had some, you know, different, we had some Supras, there were some like NSXs, there was another GTO in there. There were like Lancers and all sorts of cool cars in there. There were a bunch of nice options, but just nothing that really seemed extra practical to me, because I hate driving rear-wheel drive racing cars. The handling is fairly shoddy on them, and I mean that's just begging for me to be spinning out every other 4 laps or so. And so I decided, instead of, you know, going to the market, I'd go to my garage instead. I had a whole bunch of cars in there that I've been gifted from various races along the way, and I was looking around and I came across what you see in front of you right now. We had this lovely little kind of under the radar racing edition Mitsubishi FTO, and I mean it's not really turning heads in like the department for horsepower. It's only like 540, which isn't even the top in this race, mind you. The guy that's driving, I don't know where the hell he is on that mini-map right now, but the guy that's driving the Subaru Rally Edition Impreza, that guy's got like 575, and yet, you know, I kind of put him to bed pretty fast. I mean, the lullaby was sung, he was laying down, and he's somewhere out in the old dreamscape right now. He's just fucking, who knows? He's probably delivering UPS mail to Vikings in flying hot dog vehicles right now, for all I know, because he certainly isn't contending for this race whatsoever. I mean, that guy that we just passed earlier on in this lap, he's already like a quarter of a lap behind us now. So, I mean, dude, this thing, it is wonderful. I mean, we've already gone 12 laps. Our tires are still in the green as far as, you know, their integrity is sitting. I mean, we were changing tires like every 7 or 8 laps in the other one, I think. And so I mean, we're really on fire right now. We are on fire for the Lord at this point, as it would seem, and you know, songs of that genre would testify for. So, I mean, we're doing awesome, man. I'm feeling great about this. I mean, we're actually, I think if I really play my cards right here, and even though I'm not like a professional poker player of any kind, even though I played a bunch of it in high school, we might be done with this thing in just a couple videos. I was thinking it was going to take probably 5 or 6, but we might be able to get this thing done in 4 if everything goes, you know, really well here. It might be 5 though. I don't think we're gonna get all the way to. I don't think we're gonna get all the way to lap 30 by the time this thing's over. So it'll probably be 5 videos total. But hey, I'm totally down with that. I was actually expecting, for some reason, a lot more than that. I think it's just because the initial shock of seeing that this was 60 laps really kind of threw me for a loop there. So hey, I'm not arguing though. Just the idea that we can coast through this race really comfortably and really not even have to think very much about what we're doing. Like, if I were driving that GTO, I'd really have to kind of, at times, just really pay attention to what I'm doing, because, you know, trying to execute some of these turns, as easy as some of them look sometimes, I just, you know, you really have to exude a lot of just kind of like, oh my god, like I gotta make sure I don't totally fuck this thing up, otherwise I'm gonna spin out and it's gonna be a nightmare and I'm gonna lose a bunch of seconds off this thing. With this car, man, I could probably drive this damn thing with my eyes closed right now. Not that I'm gonna test that theory, because obviously I probably won't know what the hell I'm doing and I'll, you know, crash and all that stuff, but I mean, the general gist of what I'm saying here is that I am having a blast in this endurance race, which is not something that you're going to hear come flying out of my face very often. Because endurance races, while you do get nice payout from them, generally just, it's kind of a bummer to do them sometimes. Because, I mean, there is only so much a man can take. Or a woman if you're driving. I mean, Danica Patrick probably had to deal with this plenty. There's only so many times that you can go around the same track in one sitting before it just starts to drive your genitals crazy, you know? So, but we're hanging in there. I mean, at least I got stuff to talk about. I'm sure people in, like, these, you know, NASCAR and Formula 1 things, I can't imagine they're just talking about any fucking crazy thing that pops into their brain fat at any given time, you know? But I got a really late start on this tonight. I was having such a hard time prying myself away from this episode of, it wasn't Drugs Inc., but it was actually Underground Inc., and I think made by the same people, obviously, and they were talking about the black market organ trade, not like not like the pipe organs where, you know, you got people, the whole like Phantom of the Opera thing where you got the guy with the messed up face in his basement playing crazy sad songs, and people go down there and he's like, oh my god, don't look at my face, it's so ugly, a guy fell into a wood chipper and, you know, half of my face is gone and I'm not dead somehow, but I'm here and my face looks heinous. So I was actually basing that description off of an episode of The Oblongs, and probably not the actual source material for that. So dude, The Oblongs was a damn good show. It had like a lot of had some good actors in there. I mean, it had Will Ferrell in there. Was the dad. I always thought that was really weird. Like, of all the, you know, A-list stuff that he's done, just randomly did voiceovers for a cartoon series that only had like 8 episodes total. It's so weird. But yeah, so in one of those episodes, girl ends up, like, the popular girl at school ends up getting her face just shredded to oblivion by falling into a wood chipper while running for class president. So it was something else. Love that show. If you've never seen it before, totally look it up. It is worth it, man. It's funny. It's got some good humor in there. It's a good one. And the opening theme song for it's actually really catchy. It was done by who did it? I think it was by, oh damn it, I can't think of the name of that group right now. It's pissing me off. It was I'll remember it later. But it was catchy. It was oblongs, oblongs, down in the valley where a chemical spill, made by the people living up on the hill. I don't remember the rest of the lyrics to it, but I mean, you can see where there's definitely some catchy nature in there. Oh, I almost had the name of the band in there. Damn it! It's gonna get me. It's gonna get me. I've listened to so many of their songs too. That's why this is really pissing me off. But back to the real thing here. So yeah, I was watching this thing on the illegal organ trade, and they kind of were shadowing a number of different people that were that, you know, from different various countries that, you know, had different financial and health scenarios that they were trying to deal with, and they're just talking about kind of how much money the organ trade in, you know, like kidney dialysis centers and, like, you know, like organ rejection medicine, like the anti-rejection medicine, like how much money you generate from that type of stuff on an annual basis. And it's insane, man. Like, it's like a multi-billion-dollar business for the 3 of those things, for like the actual procedures for the transplants, and like the and like kidney dialysis centers and the drugs, all those things. You're making somewhere in the U.S. alone are making somewhere around like the $7 to $10 billion a year deal with those things. It is insane. And so And there are a lot of people that, you know, if you get on those dialysis waiting lists, I mean, they usually, a lot of people going into those, they give you a life expectancy of not very many years, because obviously your kidneys are just pretty much on, I think they're at like 25% functionality or lower, I think, is when they start throwing you into that sort of thing. And so it's only like a couple of years generally, and so people will legitimately, a lot of the time, they'll if they don't get a donor right away, then they'll start looking in the black market for that sort of stuff. So they tailed one guy that was in that exact scenario. He had been given a life expectancy of 3 years with this whole thing, and so he decided that if he didn't get a donor like right away, within, you know, by like the end of the year at the time that documentary was made, that he was going to look on the black market for it, because he has a lot of family, like a lot of grandkids, and he doesn't want to just, you know, abandon them and leave them alone. So that was one of the stories, and a lot of what they were doing was like taking place in like the Middle East and like India and Israel and stuff like that, where they had, you know, like a guy from Nepal that after the massive earthquake they had there in April, he had decided to travel over to India for work, and so he was kind of making a little bit of a living there, but he was actually going to go there to contact like an organ runner, or not a runner, but a hunter. That's what it was, an organ hunter, so that he could try to, you know, make some money for his family, because after like the town that they lived in, when that huge ass earthquake struck, it like demolished the whole thing, and so there are like people living in small tents like in the middle of the streets where he was living, and so pretty much the entire livelihood of his family depended on him, you know, selling off one of his kidneys, and so they were kind of following him in the process of that. And there was another guy who he was like in his like mid-20s, I think, and he was living by himself on a farm, and he's only able to generate like $134 a month for what he's doing, and he owes the banks like $150 a month for his property, and so he's like not making ends meet properly. And so he was thinking, you know, the only way that he can do it, you know, before the bank ends up, you know, going out and seizing all of his assets and whatnot, is by selling his kidney. So it went through the whole process of him contacting, you know, an organ hunter and going through that whole process, and then they were talking to another guy that had gotten actually like arrested and was being investigated for doing, you know, for being the broker that was kind of going through that whole thing, and he was actually like a former Israeli soccer player or football player, depending on where you're at in the world. That one was really interesting too. Like he'd gotten like arrested. Well, he had gotten like while they were doing the whole process of getting the court date and everything set up, they had him on like house arrest, and so they were just kind of interviewing him and talking about him, like getting like his view on the whole thing. And like his view was that, you know, he was doing everything legally by the book, and like the government is twisting the words around so, you know, they can get him in trouble for it, essentially, was what his take was on it. But it was crazy, man. They were like the main thing that really got me the most was this one family in India. They were talking about the story of their son, who needed to have. He went to the hospital because he was starting to like vomit blood, and he was having like headaches and all sorts of weird symptoms. And he went to the hospital, and they told him that one of his kidneys was failing, and so that they needed to do surgery and have it removed. And this isn't really part of like actually it's kind of part of it. It wasn't really part of like the illegal organ donor deal. So this was just a really sad story in general. But this guy, he was like probably like, I think he said he was 19 years old. So I mean, already right there, being 19 years old and having a failing kidney at that age is so sad. But they go through the whole process. They're talking to the doctor, and they could have put him on the donor list, but it takes, you know, a long time, and they didn't really know how long it was going to take. So the mom offers her kidney, and so they went through the whole process to test whether it was going to be good or not, and it seemed like everything was going to be okay. So they did the procedure, and they successfully transplanted the kidney into her son's body. And everything was fine for like 2 months, and then after the 2 months were up, it came down to the point where he started getting sick again. Like, his body started rejecting the kidney that he got from his mom. And because, like, I think it's like 70% of the citizens in India don't have health insurance, they were forced to, pay most of all that stuff out of pocket, and they didn't have the money for, like, the organ rejection drugs, like the anti-rejection stuff. And so they had to think up, either going onto the black market for a kidney or finding some other avenue. And so the dad decided to offer up his, but they said he was too old for it. And so I think they actually ended up going onto the black market and ended up getting a kidney from somebody. I think it was a guy around the age of like 20 to 24 or something like that. So it was like the right age bracket for this kid, obviously. And so so they did the procedure and they got it in there and everything. And they after he got discharged from the hospital, the day they went home, he was going home with his parents, and they were gonna walk up the steps to the house, and so the kid was like, he's like, Dad, I can't walk up the steps, because he was like afraid that he was he was afraid like his range of movement wasn't going to be good enough for that, and I think he was probably still pretty weak too. So his dad goes to get him a chair to have him sit down, and so that he can, kind of gather himself, and they were going to try to find a way to get him up the steps into the house. And so they try to get him up the steps, and the wound, like the surgical wound that he had that was still healing, where all the scarring was at, the thing burst open, and just a ton of like blood and fluid ended up just spilling out everywhere. And so ended up being a really bad thing. They called up the doctor like immediately, and they sent somebody out to it was like an anesthesiologist or something like that to deal with like that whole, so they could try to get it all sutured back up again. But they didn't do it in time, and the kid ended up dying the following morning. Like he didn't make it through the whole thing. And so they ended up, after their son died, they went after the doctor and tried to get him for malpractice because of just not not properly closing up the wound, and not properly doing the procedure. And he ended up going to jail for like barely any time at all. I think it was like, I don't remember how long it was, but it definitely wasn't very long. And they found out that there had been like all sorts of like medical malpractice and like the whole illegal trade going on there. But he only went to jail for like a really short time, and then he was back out on the streets again, out practicing some more. Like they didn't revoke his medical license or anything. They just like let him right back out there, and he was out there doing it again. So they were talking about like how they were hoping that they can get like somebody to investigate it further and try to get him behind bars for longer for what they did to his kid. Rightfully so. I mean, that's really bad. I mean, obviously there are a number of cases where they get the organ and the donor and everything goes over perfectly, and everything's fine, and no harm done to either party there, and it's all good. But I mean, then you find cases like this where you go out and you find a donor and you get the kidney, and supposedly everything's fine, but because the doctor botched the ending parts of that process, it just it ends up killing the kid, and that's the end of it. And it ends up being just an awful scenario for everybody. So, so sad. Like that one, it kind of got me right deep down in the chest. I felt really sad about that one. So, dude, those shows are great, man. I love the Underground Inc. and the Drugs Inc. shows. Like, that is easily the best show that National Geographic has. Like, it's not even close. It is a wonderful piece of TV, because it just shows you like how crazy the world really is with stuff like this, with just like the types of drug trading that goes on in this world, and like people trading their organs just for for money, and like the people that are doing it have like no shame at all. Like they even talk to like one of the bosses and like one of his right hand guys, as far as the whole like overseeing the whole organ trade goes, and they're just like, hey, you know, as long as there's people in the world that are, you know, severely overweight and sick, man, there's always going to be business for me, and you know, they make tons of money out of it. So they're just like, you know, I mean, we're not, I mean, like there are some people that do it ethically and some people that don't, but like for the people that do it ethically, they're like, look, I mean, there are definitely, you know, medical systems in this world that really do their patients the wrong way, and you know, we're out here as a means of trying to find a way to help, essentially, even though it's, you know, in some ways they kind of prey on desperate people, because desperate people will do desperate things for money, any amount really when it comes down to it. And it's like, but I mean, we are, you know, we are taking from these people, but we are giving their organs of one, you know, which you really only need one anyways. You know, we're taking the extras that people are willing to give away to people that are dying and sick that need them. So it's like I understand that part of it, but then there's like the really shady, like the whole like mafia and gangster and, you know, overlord type of stuff like that, where it gets really out of hand. And so yeah, it's just kind of one of those sort of things. But yeah, dude, I love those shows, man. I really do. That's the kind of thing, like stuff about drugs and like underground stuff. I could watch that and paranormal shows and sports all day. Like those are my three go-to things right there. It is just, it's great. So I'm gonna say that we have run out of time for this episode, but when we come back on the next installment of Let's Play Gran Turismo, the Ultimate Driving Simulator, we're going to come back and we're going to do some more laps. I mean, we're just a hair under halfway done, and I'm loving it, man. We're really cruising right now. I'm feeling really good about this. I kind of wish that they would show like the actual splits for exactly how much I beat these guys by in the end, because I mean, you usually just kind of have to wait for it to happen. Just because it just says running when you're done with it. But, what do you do? You know, we're going to win. We're going to get a lot of money. We're going to get another car out of it. And I can't wait to see what it is in a couple episodes when we finish this. But until then, my friends, this is your host, AMF1534, saying thank you guys for watching. And I'll see you next time. Take care, everybody. Bye. Watch out for your kidney. Don't sell it to shady-ass people.